Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the videos as they are published. I would like you to watch them as soon as as soon as you see the feed in your YouTube algorithm, your YouTube feed, try to watch the videos, like them and watch them throughout. Just don't like the video and move on because you kill the video in that way because YouTube algorithm will think that the video was not enjoyed by you. All right, so make sure that you make sure that you watch rather most of the video that the algorithm will interpret that you liked the video and you enjoyed the dialogue, the conversation that we're having. Now, also, those of you who are interested, and I want to know that there are a number of you out there. I can't just do it for two people. I have to have a significant number of people, at least 200 people, when I post a video that you are watching it at the same time, right? So that the algorithm, again, can be boosted and will dispatch the videos to as many people as possible. If not, the videos will be killed. It's not that I'm begging you because I'm coming here to beg to watch. The fact of the matter is that this type of information, the information that I'm providing to you, the commentaries that I'm making, are very important at such a time like this. We're living in some very momentous times, and we cannot afford now to act hypocritically. We have to act decisively, and we have to speak the naked and raw truth, though the heavens fall. Respectfully so, but the truth has to be told. I think that we have been deliberating truth, we have been mixing truth, and we have been hypocritically doing so to save face and to feel as if we are educated. And the world of education, as we see it now, is something that is filled with a lot of hypocrisy because, we have been bought out and sold. Okay. Now, the title of my topic today is Divide and Conquer: How the US Plans to Use the Caribbean Against Venezuela. And that is what she's doing. The United States is quietly using divide and conquer tactics to weaken Caribbean unity and isolate Venezuela. As tensions rise in Latin America, Washington's old playbook is back, splitting regional alliances and turning leaders against each other. Will the Caribbean become a pawn in another US war for control, or will the region stand together for peace and sovereignty? In this video on Rumination News Network, I will break down the strategy, expose the geopolitical moves behind the scenes, and explain how a divided Caribbean could make the US war on Venezuela a success. Watch until the end. The truth about what's happening in the Caribbean might shock you. Now, we are seeing the playbook of divide and conquer in the Caribbean, the likes of which perhaps we have never seen. We did see, historically speaking, that during the 1980s and the march of the Cold War, that we saw where the Caribbean was also caught up in that web. And Jamaica, which was experiencing the 70s democratic socialism, sided with the Soviet Union, Cuba, and the countries of the non-aligned movement. And they thought that capitalism was not working. At least the neoliberal capitalist system was not working. A lot of times we tend to use these two words broadly, and we don't define what type of capitalism we mean. Now, capitalism in the way in which they are using it is not effective. It's not an effective economic tool. The neoliberal system of capitalism is almost like communism. There's not much distinction there. What they're doing is that they are behaving as if by paying us some low wages, that, oh, it's a capitalist system and the billionaires can be billionaires and of course, what we call ourselves now, the plebs. The plebs, the citizens, should be their slaves. But that is what it is about, and that is not the most effective tool or system of capitalism. We need a capitalism, a form of capitalism that is governed by the rule of law. What we're seeing in today's world, just as in the days of slavery, is a complete breakdown, a complete capture of our democratic institutions. So the media, for example, are not playing their role. The system of, the judicial system, not playing its role. The legislative body, Congress or parliaments of the world are not also playing their role. And because of that, we're now experiencing a complete breakdown of democratic norms and practices. And we've got to study these democratic norms and practices because I think now, particularly after 9/11, we have found ourselves in a world in which we think acting illegally and outside of the remit of the law is something that is the norm. That is what we're seeing now. We have become so accustomed to wars, and wars, they break down the freedoms and the democratic rights that we experienced or enjoyed before the wars were waged. So we have a generation of citizens, particularly in the West, who are now accustomed to wars. And because of that, they have it in their minds, ingrained in their minds, that wars are peace or will usher in a period of peace. And that is not true. What wars do, wars take away your rights and your freedoms, your civil and religious rights and freedoms. That is what wars do. And the oligarchs know that. And apart from their making a substantive amounts of money, enormous amounts of money that they make from the proceeds therefrom, okay, they also understand that they can also eliminate laws. And that is what they're doing right now. So, for example, Trump is having a war, is launching a war on Nicolas Maduro, suggesting that he is an illegitimate president, and also he is the leader of a gang that they're calling the Cartel de los Soles. But the fact of the matter is that if we are living in a democratic society, and if the allegations are true, an executive branch of government should not be suggesting that and he's going to be the law and the judge and the executioner. It should be that Nicolas Maduro is brought before an international tribunal in which he can declare his side to the other side, which will be his side, to the world, to the nation of Venezuela, and also to the world by extension. Recently, they had a United Nations General Assembly in the United States. That is an annual event. And one would have thought that the United States would have allowed Nicolas Maduro to have gone there to have defended himself, at least to air what is on his mind and to answer to some of the allegations that the United States has advanced against him. But that was not the whole point of the United Nations General Assembly. In fact, the United States told him that he could not. They blocked him from entering the United States. Now, what is this all about? If the United States knows that it is speaking the truth, if I know I'm speaking the truth, I have no reason to block the person who's lying. Let him speak. Let him or her speak. And then what he or she say or says, then I would be able to debunk, right, what he or she has stated. Okay? And that is how democratic societies operate. But we're now living in a society in which the due process, habeas corpus, is now becoming, a privilege, I should say, of the past. And when these things go, when we have due process, when that is killed, that's the end of freedom as we know it. We're going to be living in a slave society, a slave-ridden society. Okay? So we need to speak up and we need to let our voices be heard. Some of you are too much engaged in pranks and what the YouTubers are saying, and you need to be engaged in political discourse of this caliber that I'm providing for you on this platform. And I thank those of you who are supporting my work, and you understand that we're living in some dangerous times where we need peace. We should be blasting from our radio sets and from our sound systems. All we are saying, just give peace a chance. That's what we want to do. We want to give peace a chance. That's all we're saying, that we want peace. But the United States understands that war is a racket. And what it does, it has to divide us so that we will join its camp of warring against an enemy that does not exist. This is a contrived enemy. It's not a real enemy. But for wars to be waged, you have to manufacture an enemy in order to manufacture consent. And that is what you have to understand. So all we're doing, we're giving our consent to a manufactured enemy in the form of Nicolas Maduro. Because we understand that Nicolas Maduro obviously is not innocent of everything. He's not a saint. So is Donald Trump not a saint. So is Andrew Holness or Kamala Harris B. Cesar or Mia Mottley and all of our prime ministers and presidents. What we do understand is that they are leaders of our country. And if you are Christian, for example, we understand that it's God who sets up and puts down. And we must respect, if the United States is a Christian nation, as it suggests it is, right? We must respect our leaders. We might agree with them, or we might not be agreeing with them in terms of everything that they do or everything that they say. But if we understand that God is sovereign, we must respect leaders until he removes them. And there is a democratic process and what we call the elections. Now, Maduro was, according to what they've told us, the Venezuelan people, they declared him as the winner last year, 2024, when they had their general elections. Trump is suggesting that Maduro is an illegitimate president. But we must understand that history should be instructive. History ought to be instructive. And we must understand that this is not the first time that the United States has been going after Venezuela, a very oil-rich country, which has the largest reserves in the world. Just to contextualize what I'm suggesting here and the reason for which, or one of the reasons, I should say, for which the United States seeks to invade that country. Now, we must also understand that the United States for years has always wanted to militarize the region. Why? Because it can secure the region from other competitors. One of the reasons why the United States went to Haiti, for example, in 1915, when you study the U.S. occupation of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, apart from the fact that she wanted to collect her debt, but she also was preserving the region from other world powers trying to dominate this region. Okay, remember now that Haiti and the DR had by that time been independent of Spanish and French colonialism. Okay, the fact of the matter is that you had the British still in the Anglo-Caribbean region, so the United States could not have dabbled there yet. At the time, she was not yet the superpower or a superpower of the world. She was just a budding world empire. So she was not going to challenge the British at that time. But after World War II, and the United States emerged as the unparalleled superpower of the world, having dominated the West in that war, Europe to be specific, then she decided that she was going to secure this hemisphere because she had already expressed that in the Monroe Doctrine. But remember now that when the Monroe Doctrine was first declared in the 19th century, that the United States had not yet emerged as a significant player on the world stage. But now, after World War II, she could have cemented her role as the unquestionable, unparalleled superpower of the world. So after that, we saw that the British gave up all of its colonies and the United States took over. Now we understand that the Spanish and the French would have been out, and the Dutch and all of these other European powers, because the United States considered them, Western Europe, to be vassal states of the United States, and they're still vassal states of the United States. Europe is not united and strong as we think they are. They do the bidding of the United States of America, and that is what you have to understand. You have to understand that. So the United States now is here in the Caribbean region to ensure that China, Russia, Iran, or any other power that might come and dabble in this region seeking to arrest the natural resources that we have here in this region. She wants to militarize the hemisphere, the Americas, so that she can be the unrivaled leader. And that's what she's doing. So she's using one stone to kill several birds. But what you don't understand, you are just looking narrowly at, oh, it's oil she wants, and then she gets the oil, she's going to move on. Doesn't work like that. The agenda is much deeper, I should say, and it's much more complex. And that is what you have to study. And or to study, I think I would suggest this book, The Sorrow of Empires, Militarism, Secrecy, and the End of the Republic by Chalmers Johnson. And he has written other books that you need to read. You need to read because you need to understand the role of the United States. Go and read your Bible too. Revelation, the book of Revelation, particularly Revelation 13 and 14. Explain to you the role of the second beast in the last day, prophetic description of what would take place in the latter days. We're seeing wars and rumors of wars being waged around the world. So we have to wake up now. We have to see that our world is not normal and we're not going back. We're moving forward on the path of a war-ridden world. Okay? And the media are now presenting that to us, are now desensitizing us to wars. And we think that wars are just normal. And if you wage a war here and there, then things will go back to normal and we'll get back waging a war on the virus, waging a war on Venezuela, waging a war on Iran, waging a war on China. And every day we're hearing the nations are angry. Okay? And we are divided as a people because we do not see the objective and the purpose of empire. The major objective of the empire is to divide and to conquer. That is how, if she's going to be successful, she has to divide the populace. And right now we're seeing Kamala Harris-Bessel, the Prime Minister of Trinidad, siding with the US in its aggression against Venezuela. Right? This bellicose attitude that the United States has toward Venezuela for no reason at all. Because dialogue can be had. In fact, it's on record that Nicolas Maduro wrote Trump sometimes in September, requesting a dialogue with him in which they could have ironed out situations. In Iraq, too, we understand that Saddam Hussein wanted a dialogue with the United States to say that I don't have any weapons of mass destruction. Okay? And the United States would not have allowed that dialogue to have happened. The same secret agencies, the intelligence gathering agents, the CIA, the DEA, have suggested that Nicolas Maduro, there is no evidence that he is any drug trafficker. Okay? And that Venezuela is any center, is a focal point of drug trafficking in the region. Absolutely no evidence. In fact, it's not even true. They're saying that places like Peru and Ecuador and Colombia, Mexico are countries that the United States probably should be carrying that war to. But the United States has its agenda. And so it decides it doesn't care. In fact, J.D. Vance is on record of saying he doesn't care or whatever. I won't say the word that he used about what the DEA and the CIA and these intelligence gathering agencies have said. He said he doesn't care. He's going after El Presidente Nicolas Maduro. He doesn't care. So the rule of law is no longer in place. Due process has gone out of the door, through the door, and will never return. And we'll just be slaves. Whatever the executive says about us, we'll just have to go with it, because that is where the power lies. Now, that is fascism, naked fascism. It's not even being hidden anymore. And we are in a serious crisis, and we are going to suffer some serious consequences for not letting our voices be heard. Okay? So I would like at this point in time for you to understand that you have to sit down and we have to agree on the major points. Don't talk about, Americans like to repeat ad nauseum, this cliche expression that, oh, I agree with him. I love his commentary, even though I don't have to agree with him I don't agree with him on many points. And everybody talks like that and think that that is something that is to be said. But we have to read, we have to study, we have to learn the truth, and we ought to be unified on major points, not the minor points. And oftentimes, that's what we disagree on, the minor issues, and the minor issues are not going to save us. The major issues are what confront us at the moment. And a major issue is a war in Venezuela is going to destabilize the entire region, is going to militarize the entire region, and the United States is going to win this war. And you and your children will become slaves to the US empire. You won't be able to say anything. You can't be a political dissident anymore, because you won't be able to express anything that goes against the diktats of US imperialism and militarism. And Chalmers Johnson, in his book, Imperialism and Militarism, suggested that they are Siamese twins. Militarism and imperialism are Siamese twins, which means you can't separate them. Okay? And that is what it's about. And militarism is control, is domination, is complete domination of everything that you have in your society. So I hope that you're waking up to see we have to be unified at this point in time. CARICOM is divided. All of the other blocks, Latin America is divided. Sometimes you're using, what's his name, the Colombian president. Sometimes he's saying he is on Venezuelan side. Another time, Trump is using him to clean up the war on drugs. And any president or prime minister that Trump is using, or the US president is using to clean up the war on drugs, you know that it's not true, because the United States does not want to clean up the drug trafficking and whatever human trafficking is. Yeah. And how stupid can we be when we see the Epstein files having not been declassified? And we've been hearing about these things, human trafficking and all of these things. How more stupid can we be to believe that the United States desires to clean up the mess, the war, to clean up the drug trafficking activities in the region when they control it, and the arms trafficking when they control it, and the child and human trafficking when it is controlled by them, or they are one of the dominant players. Maybe not the player, but one of the dominant players. Because if you read the history of the Vatican and the history of the Vatican Jesuits, you'll understand that the root is there. All roads lead to Rome. Okay? So we are not going to be fooled at this time, and we should not be divided at this time. We should be unified under one banner, that war is not peace, and that we do not want to be converted into an Orwellian state, because that is where we're heading. And somebody contacted me yesterday on one of my videos when I was commending Mia Mottley for her rhetoric of suggesting that we want peace. And I said that if she is genuine, and he's saying, well, you probably don't think she's genuine. It's not for me to say that. It's for you to decide. I am not putting my faith and confidence in any politician, but I will support their rhetoric if they say something, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt until I see otherwise. And that's exactly what I'm doing with Mia Mottley, giving her the benefit of the doubt while looking from looking peripherally, using my peripheral vision to see what's going on there. What is she doing here? You've got to be alert. You've got to be alert. And you cannot put your belief in one leader because they're not God. And the Bible says we ought not to put our confidence in men. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here, but there was an article written by this guy from, I think it's Tom Snyder, and he was giving a little version of the history of the war on Venezuela. That he says that President Trump goes to war, and he's suggesting that, this has been a long time. This has been in the works for a long time. All right, he said all signs are pointing rather to U.S. military action in Venezuela. The U.S. has flooded the region with 3 Aegis guided missile destroyers and all of the things that that they're at war, the fact that there are lots of also military personnel in the region. Okay, so we have to understand, we have to grow up now to see that the war is inevitable. It's going to happen. But the United States, in order to win this war, has first got to divide the region. Okay? The idea of regime change, the authors are saying, is not one that arose, I should say, I'm sorry. The idea of regime change, let's read again. The idea of regime change is not one that arose unexpectedly on the Trump administration's agenda. Even before taking office, Trump's incoming administration made it known that it sought regime change in Venezuela, and it was there. If you read also, I think the Hoover's Institute, you'll see there that that was one of his agenda. Before presidents come into office, they receive their agenda. Do you understand that? And that is why they have the meeting with the former president, the president who is coming, is demitting office, is exiting office. Before the president, the one that wins in November, they always have that meeting in which the agenda is carefully delineated. Okay? That is what you have to understand. And it was not a new idea then. It is an old idea, and very old idea. The U.S. first became involved in coups in Venezuela in 1908 when they helped Juan Vicente Gomez to oust Cipriano Castro in a coup. Nearly 100 years later, the U.S. would be deeply involved in the unsuccessful 2002 coup that briefly removed Hugo Chavez from power. Bush officials acknowledged that they had discussed the removal of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez for months with military and civilian leaders from Venezuela. Officials of the Organization of American States confirmed that the Bush administration was not only aware the coup was about to take place, but had sanctioned it. Eventually, the State Department would admit that the Bush administration provided training, institution building, and other support to individuals and organizations understood to be actively involved in the military coup. All right, so now you're seeing that this is no new agenda. The agenda had already been there. Trump was supposed to have done it in 2016 during his first term in office, never accomplished it, and now he is on a quest to accomplish it. Remember now that it was George H.W. Bush, that is George W. Bush's father, who wanted to remove Iraq President Saddam Hussein from office. He didn't accomplish it, and his son, who came to power in 2000 in the United States, he did it. So I think that in Trump's second term, if God permits, Nicolas Maduro is going to be toppled, and the United States and its oligarch are going to take over Venezuela, all right, and the region at large, and control us. And this is what we need to understand. All right. So while we might not be friends of Maduro, while you might not like him, you don't have to like him, but we have to adhere to principles and to democratic norms. If not, what they do to Maduro, they can also do to you and your family and to the prime minister or president of your country that you like and that you think is doing the best for the country. Okay? So you have to wake up. Don't look at feelings and emotions and I don't like Maduro, I don't like Kamala person, he says, or I don't like Myanmar. Look at the rule of law. And if our presidents or prime ministers are operating within that realm, so that we won't be divided, because only truth unites and only truth allows us to make prudent decisions. Caribbean members, Caribbean citizens, will you allow yourselves to be divided over a matter that only stands to wreck us and to demolish us as a freedom-loving, peace-loving people? It's time to stand up and act. It's time now that we learn to think, and it's time now that we put away our divisions in the name of peace. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the videos so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. See you in another one. Adios.